Back. So, if you've been following these Overwatch League predictions, you would know that I missed the last week of the season, or not of the season, of Stage One. I was home that weekend and I was like super busy and we were gone one of the days and I got back like that night and I was like, oh crap, I totally forgot. I should have filmed this like days prior, so I'd be ready. But yeah, I totally forgot and I didn't get those out. I'm gonna add like pretty much what I would have like what I thought was gonna happen. I'll add that to my like record. I won't lie about it and give myself all six of the wins. I think of the ones that I like thought, I think I was like 4-2, if I remember right. Had a couple wrong that I knew of. But anyway, yeah. So stage one finished up last week, or 2 weeks ago. It finished up, and in the little mini playoff, we had the top three teams were the Houston Outlaws were number 3, the London Spitfire were number 2, and then the New York Excelsior were number 1. In the first match, we had the Spitfire take down the Outlaws 3-1, and then in the finals, the Spitfire beat the Excelsior 3-2. They came back down 0-2. Excelsior won the first 2 maps, and the Spitfire came roaring back. They played a 14 maps, I think they said that day, which is, I mean, that's like playing 14 games a comp in a row, but you're on the stage and like the stakes are super high and like you'll be super high energy the whole time. So it's pretty impressive that they were able to pull through and come back and Spitfire the stage 1 champs. That was pretty much just like for the money bonus though. So actually going into stage 2, the number 1 team is the Excelsior. They have the best record. They have the best map differential. They're sitting nice at 9-1. Would they like to win stage 1? Yeah. But did they still have a fantastic stage 1? Absolutely. So, the Spitfire are second in the standings. The Outlaws are third. The Valiant are fourth. Seoul is fifth. Boston is 6th. Philadelphia is 7th. Los Angeles Gladiators are 8th. San Francisco Shock are 9th. Dallas Fuel are 10th. Florida Mayhem are 11th. And then Shanghai Dragons are 12th. And that's just based on like the record. And maybe in a couple days I'll say like my power rankings for stage 2. I won't say that now because then this would be a very, very long video instead of just being a decently long video. So there's some big things with stage 2. Some of the teams have new players. A lot of teams added players. Shanghai added 3, I believe. The Gladiators have added 1. The Fuel have added a couple. The Shock added a coach. Spitfire actually dropped a couple of their players because they had a full team of 12. They reportedly had a couple people. They had one go to the Fuel and one go to the Gladiators. So there's been lineup changes. The new patch is going to be out for stage 2, which includes pretty much just it's a big Mercy nerf, and there's a small Junkrat nerf. So Junkrat play might go down a little bit. Probably not a lot though. I'd say he's still going to get used on the maps he's good at. The changes weren't that huge. Mercy is definitely going to be used a lot less. You're going to see a lot more support comps. So if you were getting sick of watching Mercy, then this is a good news for you. The other thing about stage 2, there's a couple things. The schedule, I hear that they changed. I think like some of the matches are just going to start earlier, I believe, or they're going to start later. They did some kind of changes because a lot of people were saying, look, we can't really, I'd like to watch, but I can't because of like my work schedule and like how the games are played out. Like I can't really make it feasible to watch a decent amount of the matches. So they are going to change the schedule up a little bit. And then the other big thing is obviously everyone's record still carries over into stage 2. So it's bad news for the Dragons and like some of the other teams towards the bottom. But there's still 30 matches left, so anything can happen. And the other big thing, new maps. They're going to be playing on new map rotation, which is really nice. I was starting to get a little tired of the other maps, especially I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the maps in the old rotation. Like, trying to think of some of them. Like I like Junkertown. I'm alright with Oasis. A lot of people don't like it, but I was okay with it. I like watching games on Helios, but a lot of the maps that they had out, like Lunar Colony, I like the map, but like watching wise, it's not the greatest. And Noombani, I'm not a huge fan of. So it's going to be all new maps, and super exciting. Let's jump right into the matches on Wednesday. So the first match of stage number 2, we got the Seoul Dynasty matched up against the Los Angeles Valiant. So this is a big matchup right here. Got the 7-3 Valiant, the 7-3 Dynasty. The Valiant have a better map differential, so they're ahead of them in the standings right now. But whoever wins this game will be higher than the other. So, what do I expect from this matchup? Well, they're going to be playing on Volskaya Industries for game 1. So they're starting with the 2 CP now. Map number 2 will be Nepal, which is your King of the Hill type. Number 3 is King's Row, which is your capture a point and then advance the payload. And then map 4, which is all payload, will be Route 66. Get your kicks. So, what do I think of this matchup? So, preseason, everyone would say Dynasty for sure. They were the number 1 team for a lot of people. But especially after the first 2 weeks, they've really fallen off. They started 4-0 and then they finished 3-3, which is very unlike them. Them being in 5th, it's like, yeah, they're still in a playoff spot right now. But being 5th is a major disappointment for them and their team and their fans. So some people thought maybe because all the matches are in LA, maybe being away from home for a long time started to get to them. They got a little homesick. They just looked sloppy some days. There were some weird lineup changes sometimes. Some of their players like Jaehong and Miro hadn't been playing as well as they should. So lots of problems for them. But I mean, when you think about it, they're 7-3. They're only 2 games back from the Excelsior in first. I think they're still in good shape as long as they can kind of get back on track here. I think they will. I think a couple-week break will probably do wonders for them. They'll get to refocus, come up with a new game plan. And while the Valiants are very good, they're a very good team, I think that the Dynasty does still outclass them talent-wise. So, as long as they get their focus back and like kind of get their maybe teamwork back working better, I think the Dynasty are in good shape for this one. This might be the hardest week to predict yet because some teams, like I said, have made lineup changes that we may see or we may not, and they're going to be on totally different maps. So there might be some teams like, I don't know, take the Shock. They perform pretty poorly in stage 1. They're only 3-7. Maybe the combination of these maps and like getting some of the other players back, maybe that will jumpstart them and they'll have a really good stage 2, or the same thing with the Fuel. They got off to a terrible start, but they've been improving every week. Maybe they jump up and start to climb up the standings towards where people thought they would be. Maybe surprise teams like the Uprising or the Outlaws will fall a bit. We'll see. I don't think the Outlaws will fall at all. Maybe the Uprising because of like map-wise, or maybe because the other teams have even more time to get used to the others. They get to do a lot of film study. So yeah, I'm really excited for this first week of stage 2. As you know, my team went pretty disappointing in my opinion, 4-6. So hopefully teams like them can really bounce back and come back a lot stronger. So I think this one will go 3-1. I'm not even going to like say individual map-wise because I don't really know how the teams play on them. So yeah, I'm just going to say in general, I think the Dynasty will take 3-1. They'll be pretty hard fought though. I think it's a good match to watch. If you didn't watch any stage 1, or you just didn't for a while, or you got bored of it, this would be a good one to come back to. It's going to be a great matchup. Second, we got the Dallas Fuel playing against the Shanghai Dragons. Now this one, it's the 3-7 Fuel. and they did start 0-4, so they finished out 3-3. They won both of their. They were 1-7, and they won both of their matchups in week 5. So that was something to build on for them. The Dragons were actually one of the teams they beat. They beat the Dragons 4-0. I think they 4-0'd them, and then they beat the Gladiators 3-1. So if the Fuel are to like keep progressing and keep getting better, they had a good draw, like matchup wise, to get the winless Dragons again. So hopefully for them, they get their 3rd win in a row. And for the Dragons, I mean, they competed pretty well with the Fuel last time. They got their new additions. I don't know if they're going to be playing. Like a lot of them are Korean or Chinese players, so they had to like get like visas and passports and like get them over to the States and then get some practice in. So I don't know if they'll be ready. You might see the same Dragons lineup for a couple weeks. But the maps they'll be on are Volskaya, Nepal, Hollywood, and then back to good old Route 66. So most people would have the Fuel winning here. I think I'm going to have them winning too. I just don't know much about the Dragons at all, like in terms of their roster, how it's coming along. And even if they do put their new people in, I don't think it'll be enough to beat the Fuel, at least not right now. I think the Dragons are one of those teams that maybe if they can incorporate their new players well, I think they could definitely win some matches in Stage 2. And hopefully for their sake and for their team and their country's sake, they do, because it's pretty embarrassing for them to be winless with a map record that is just really bad. I think their map won to loss ratio is like -30 some. So hopefully they can start to get it turned around, but I don't think they get their first win here. I think the Fuel take this one 3-1. I think the Dragons take game 4. I think the Fuel win the first 3 and take the series, and the Dragons have been known to take last maps, and I think they will do that again in this one. So I got the Fuel over the Dragons. Now the last match of Wednesday, you got the LA Gladiators. Both the LA teams playing tomorrow. They're going to be playing the San Francisco Shock. So the 4-6 Gladiators against 3-7 Shock. We have Hanamura for game number 1, Nepal for 2, Kings Row for 3, and then Watchpoint Gibraltar for map 4. The first time we'll see Watchpoint in Overwatch League. Hanamura as well, actually. So the Gladiators and the Shock played week 5, and the Gladiators won 3-1. I still don't know about the Shock with the availability of their players Super and Sinatra. That could make a difference if those two are able to play. They're both too young in Stage 1. Are they available now? I don't know. And I'm not sure about the eligibility there. I think I would have heard about it if they were, so I'm going to guess that they aren't. But, man, this one, as a Gladiators fan, this one makes me nervous because the Gladiators won the first matchup. I think most people would definitely agree that the Gladiators are a better team, but just beating a team twice in a row in professional sports is always hard, and I assume it's got to be the same for Overwatch. So I'm gonna go with the Gladiators in this one. But yeah, this one makes me nervous. It's new maps. Maybe like the Shock are way stronger on these maps. Hopefully the Gladiators are a lot stronger. My gripe with them was always just like lack of aggression and communication. It seemed like a lot of times the Gladiators would have stretches where like they kind of seemed like they were just going out there and just like playing all individually. They weren't really playing as a team. And you could see that clearly in some of their losses. Like, their loss to the Fuel only happened because of bad communication. It was the same thing against the Valiant. In the second half, they stopped communicating. You could tell. And in some of their losses, too, it's like, man, they just don't look like they're trying out there. So hopefully we get a strong effort for them. They did pick up a player. There was, like, reports that they had picked up Fissure, who is a main tank, who was on the Spitfire. He was their backup main tank. as far as I knew from a couple days ago, those reports are still unofficial, so I don't know if he's actually a member of the team yet, and if so, if he even played because of like lack of practice with the rest of the team. So I don't know what his status is. Like I said, the Shock didn't add any players. They added a new coach to see if that could maybe help their team work a little bit better. But yeah, I got the Gladiators. I'm gonna say 3-1 again. Yeah, this one could go either way. I could see this one being very interesting, especially if the Shock are able to bring in either Super or Sinatra, who are both very, very talented players. And they also have the player IDDQD, who is a very good hit scan player, who didn't play. He's on their team. He didn't play all Stage 1 for no one really knew why. So maybe they play him now. Maybe they try that. I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see how this one develops, but I'm going to go with the Gladiators. So moving on to Thursday. First matchup here. It's another rematch from week number 5. I think they like flipped them so that all the teams that played each other in 5 play each other now in week 1 of Stage 2. So this one, you got the Houston Outlaws against the London Spitfire. So these guys played twice last week. The Outlaws won the first time 3-2, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they did. They won 3-2, which got them the number 2 spot. But then in the mini playoff, the Spitfire did beat them to advance to the title match of Stage 1. So again, new maps for this one, so that might change something. Spitfire did drop a couple of their players, but it was none of their starters, so I don't think we're going to see a huge impact from that happening. They're going to be playing on Volskaya, Nepal, Kings Row, and then Route 66. So, oh man, this one I go back and forth. Talent-wise, you got to go with the Spitfire. I said this from the beginning, and I still believe it. Most talented team in the league. I mean, man, when you have Gesture on main tank, they have just such a good duo of DPS and Prophet and Birdring. They have really, really good players coming off the bench as well. Hureg. Their supports are really solid. They work well together. I think they were getting stronger as last season progressed. And I'm going to say the Spitfire win this one. It'll be hard fought. I think the Outlaws, communication-wise, I think they have a slight edge over the Spitfire. But just like playing the game-wise, when the Spitfire are on, they're just the best team, in my opinion. When they're at the very top of their game, I think they're better than the Excelsior, than the Dynasty, than the Outlaws, and the Valiant, the other top teams. So this one is going to be a very good game, very interesting. It could go either way, but I'm going to say the Spitfire 3-2. All right, match number 2 of Thursday is the New York Excelsior facing off against the Florida Mayhem. So this one probably won't be close. The Mayhem played well against the Excelsior in Stage 5. They managed to tie a map, so the Excelsior won 3-0. But the Mayhem had a good showing, especially considering it was an 8-1 Excelsior against the 1-8 Mayhem. Now they're 9-1 and 1-9. So I don't really see any way the Mayhem win this one. I think the Excelsior take it 4-0. They're going to be playing on Hanamura. Lijiang Tower, no longer a tiebreaker map. Now it is, I think the tiebreaker one is Ilios now, I think. But I'm not sure. It could be Oasis. But yeah, so they're going to be on Lijiang Tower for Game 2. Then they're going back to Kings Row. And they're finishing up on Watchpoint Gibraltar. Yeah, this one, it's 4-0. I mean, the Mayhem played very well last week. They picked up some new faces. That should help them be better. But at this point, I don't think there's any way they beat the Excelsior. Maybe they tie another map and it's 3-0. Maybe they actually pull off a map and it's 3-1. I'm going to say 4-0, and I'm going to say Excelsior win this one pretty easily. Not a whole lot to talk about in that one. So then, the last match of Thursday, which this one might be, I don't know, it might be the most interesting one to me. They're going to be playing on Hanamura, Lijiang Tower, Hollywood, and then watch Point Gibraltar again. So it's the Boston Uprising and the Philadelphia Fusion. So going into their matchup last week, they were both 5-3. It was the first match of week 5, and the Uprising pretty much destroyed the Fusion. They 4-0'd them. A lot of people thought it would be a close match between two teams that were still both in contention for the Stage 1 playoff at that point. And now the Uprising are 7-3, and the Fusion are 6-4. I really, on paper, I like the Fusion, but as you could see last week, the Uprising, I think their communication's better. I think they have better versatility, comp-wise. Like, they can put together more comps than the Fusion can. The Fusion are very, very good at running, like, the dive comp, but dive comp is kind of falling off right now based on the changes like Mercy and some other changes with, like, tanks becoming more popular in a lot of cases. So I'm going to say the Uprising win this one. The Uprising were definitely the team. A lot of people had them at between 10 to 12 in the preseason rankings. A lot of people thought they'd be one of the worst teams easily. Yeah, and they're 7-3 and they're in 6th right now. They would be in the playoffs if the playoffs started today. So a lot of people underestimated them. I underestimated them. They are a force to be reckoned with. I think they'll beat the Fusion. I don't think the Fusion will get 4-0'd again. I think it'll be... Screw it. I'll say this one goes to 5. I'll say this one goes to 5. The Uprising do pull it out, though. I think this is a very important game for the Fusion. They're 7th right now. They're one game out of the playoffs. If they beat the Uprising, they'll be tied record-wise. So they'll be right there. But if they get 4-0'd again, like you get 4-0'd again, I think that'd be like the 3rd or 4th time they've been 4-0'd. They dropped to 6-5. Their map win-loss would hurt a little bit from that. So I think this is like a proving time for them. Like, are you gonna compete for the playoffs at the end of the season, or are you just gonna be like that team that's good but just not playoff worthy? So yeah, I think the Fusion do not beat the Uprising. Got the Uprising winning that one. But it's a very interesting one. Besides the Gladiator match, that might be the match I have my eye on the most. Alright, so there's your matchups for Wednesday and Thursday. Maybe for Friday, comment if you want it. Maybe I'll do a power rankings going into Stage 2. Got a lot of good matchups. It'll be a very, very good week of Overwatch, I think. I'm excited for tomorrow. Hope you are too. And I'll see you in the very next video.